It all started on an ordinary evening, one of those quiet moments where nothing seems out of the ordinary. I was sinking into my favorite recliner, the soft glow of the TV casting shadows across the living room. The comforting scent of the rose Catherine had prepared for dinner still lingered in the air. Catherine, my wife of 8 years, was lounging on the couch, engrossed in her phone. She was laughing softly at memes or videos, the kind of sound that had become a familiar background to our life together. I didn't think much of it. She was always on her phone, sharing updates, posting pictures, giving the world glimpses of our supposedly perfect life. But then, it happened. The seemingly innocent moment that would change everything. Catherine posted a picture, or so I thought. It was a simple selfie of her at a cozy cafe, holding a cappuccino with the caption, "Needed a little me-time, hot beverage person getting massaged." At first, I didn't think much of it, until I noticed something strange. In the reflection of her coffee cup, there was an outline. It was blurry, distorted, but unmistakably there, a man. He was sitting across from her, leaning in, as if sharing an intimate moment. My stomach twisted, and a cold shiver ran down my spine. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was nothing, that I was imagining things. The reflection could have been anyone, right? But the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I zoomed in on the photo, my heart pounding as I scrutinized every detail, trying to convince myself I was just overreacting. But then I saw it, another small, but telling detail. A bracelet on Catherine's wrist, unfamiliar and out of place. It wasn't hers. I knew that for a fact. Catherine didn't wear jewelry unless it was a special occasion, and every piece of jewelry she owned had been a gift from me. The more I looked at the image, the more my mind raced. That night, I couldn't sleep. The photo, the reflection, the bracelet, everything kept looping through my mind. I told myself I was being paranoid, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. By the time the sun came up, I couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut any longer. I decided to trust my instincts. The next day, Catherine went out, supposedly to run errands. As soon as she left, I knew I couldn't just sit idly by. I had to know the truth. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I had to search. I tore through every drawer, rifled through her closet, even dug through her purses and handbags. But there was nothing that would explain the nagging suspicion crawling up my spine. I was about to give up, ready to accept that I was just imagining things, when I sat down on the edge of the bed to collect my thoughts. That's when I noticed something. A faint bulge under the mattress lining. My pulse quickened. There, wedged between the fabric, was the unmistakable outline of a phone. My heart raced as I pulled it out. It was a second phone, locked, of course. My hands trembled as I entered a few of her usual passwords and numerical codes, and to my surprise, it opened. What I found next made my blood run cold. A treasure trove of evidence. Messages from a contact saved as client, a calendar filled with cryptic events labeled simply as meeting, and even an encrypted messaging app that I knew she'd never mentioned. My mind was reeling as I scrolled through the messages. The weight of each discovery felt like a blow, but I couldn't stop. My hands shook as I absorbed the undeniable truth of it all. Catherine, the woman I had loved and trusted for 8 years, had been hiding a secret life. I knew I needed more proof, something undeniable. So, I took photos of everything with my phone, every message, every detail, every scrap of evidence I had found. It was clear to me now that I had to uncover the full extent of Catherine's betrayal. That's when I made the decision to hire a private investigator. His name was Rick, a weathered man in his 50s, with a no-nonsense attitude and the kind of eyes that told you he'd seen it all. I handed him the second phone, along with the few details I had gathered, the odd bracelet, the reflection in the coffee cup, the encrypted messages. Rick gave me a grim nod and assured me he'd get to work. Then, he left me to stew in my growing anger, the heartbreak weighing heavy on my chest. A week passed before Rick called me. "Jared, you're not going to like this," he began, his voice thick with gravity. He didn't mince words. "Catherine isn't just cheating. She's been working as an escort. She has a whole other life you knew nothing about. Dates, trips, expensive gifts, all funded by men who aren't you." The words hit me like a sucker punch. My breath caught, and for a moment, the world felt like it was spinning. Catherine, the woman I had trusted, the one I had loved for so long, who I thought I knew better than anyone, had been leading a double life. It was like something out of a nightmare. But despite the intense pain it caused, I knew I needed to hear everything. I needed the truth, no matter how ugly it was. Rick didn't just give me a few vague details. He provided hard evidence. Photos, texts, receipts, everything I needed to see that painted a picture so painfully clear, it was impossible to ignore. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, my hands shaking as I laid out the second phone and a stack of printed documents in front of me. The silence in the room felt suffocating. When Catherine walked through the door, I could see her smile falter instantly as she registered my expression. I didn't speak at first. I just nodded toward the chair across from me. "Sit down," I said, my voice colder than I had ever heard it. She hesitated, her brow furrowing. "Jared, what's going on?" she asked, her voice unsteady. I slid the phone toward her. "You tell me." She stared at it, her face draining of color as she processed what was in front of her. For a moment, I thought she might try to deny it, but then her defenses crumbled. Tears welled in her eyes, and she began to sob. "Jared, I can explain." "Stop." I cut her off, my voice sharp, more cutting than I had intended. "You can't explain this. Not this. I know everything, Catherine." The second phone, the escorting, the lies. All of it. Her sobs grew louder, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. The woman who had walked into this house wasn't the one I had married, the one I had trusted with everything. She begged for forgiveness, for another chance, promising it was a mistake, a one-time thing. But her words felt hollow. The damage had already been done, and I had already made up my mind. I immediately took steps to protect myself. I got tested for every possible STD, the fear clawing at me with every passing minute. Thankfully, I came out clean. But the emotional toll was still there. The divorce was swift, but brutal. Catherine tried to fight it, of course, but with the mountain of evidence I had, there was no way for her to escape the truth. In the end, I walked away with my dignity intact, while she was left with nothing but the shattered remnants of her double life exposed for the world to see. It's been a year now since that night, and I've done my best to move on. Trust doesn't come easily anymore, not after everything that's happened. But I'm learning, one step at a time. Every so often, my mind drifts back to that photo she posted, the one that set everything in motion. As painful as it was, I'm oddly grateful for it. It showed me the truth, even when I wasn't ready to face it. These days, I'm focusing on myself. I've even taken up photography.